Well, I sure hope they enjoyed last week's video with that great Canada run, father-daughter, and the Laidlaw trip. Yeah. We have a couple more great ones.
Well, welcome back to the channel. We're doing our review of 2024 rides. What did we want?
2023 rides.
2023 rides.
Yes. Yeah, but we can do 2022 if you want, because we do
doing
have
2024?
Not yet.
I would like to.
Next year.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can do it before we go.
So I'm kind of frozen as I'm sitting here afraid of the next one.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what. We sat down to record our top 5 or 6 rides just to share that in one video, and just realized how much cool stuff we had seen this past year. So we're getting back to part 2. What are you talking about with the cold, man?
Well, let's just reverse 1 second. So when we started the first video, we talked about a lot of firsts.
Yeah.
And we're going to go through a few more firsts as well. This is the first time we've been on this stretch of highway in the length of time that we were on it. We were a little piece of it at one point, but we took the 50 loneliest highway in America, and I'll take the blame on this, okay? I'll take it. We thought we would be kind of out of the weather. It was going to be Nevada up in the north, a little bit cold, but not a frozen tundra. And it ended up being something like that.
But that's what made this trip so magical and so great and so awesome to look back at the footage, because riding through the snow, the road didn't have snow on it, but everything else did. And yeah, we were riding in a freezer. The night we got in, 14 degrees for an hour.
So it's funny looking at the footage, because not only was it too cold for the cameras to even really operate by the time we approached Ely, just because it was that cold, and the GoPros and the batteries, blah, blah, blah. But like you said, we prepared for cold weather. We brought cold weather gear. But coming into that area at night, we didn't really notice that the whole side of the road was covered in snow until we started turning those brights on. You could see that glare right alongside the road. Maybe I'll let you tell the story about how I was functioning by the time we got to the hotel.
Wait, how you were not functioning?
How I was not functioning. Long story medium, my hands were spazzing out. I couldn't feel my fingers to even get my wallet to give the hotel lady. And the phone's ringing. So my buddy raised a good point. Ely was not the first night stay.
But it still was cold.
It was cold.
Where was the stay?
It was Elco.
Yes.
Elco, Nevada.
What I was getting at was that was the coldest time of the trip. And the next day we're, 32 to 35, covered in snow. And it felt warm.
Well, you have to imagine this. It's dark. You and I both saw there was a big rig off the side.
Yeah.
He missed it, but because we're just so hyper focused, and we're saying in the comms, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "I'm kind of seeing through little goggles." Well,
yeah.
I reflected back to the first time we took you out and went over Kit Carson Pass, and you're on your little sport bike, and you were frozen to the thing. You had no gear on. At least we had a little bit of gear.
It shared some similarities.
But we're doing 70 to 80 miles an hour in 14-degree weather, so I imagine wind chill was probably in the 8-9 area, I would think.
Yeah. Or lower. And then we get into the hotel, and I think I was kind of okay. And then I look over, and Josh is just like going, "Oh, he can't move." I took my jumpsuit off. I put it over the top of him. Helping him. We did have jumpsuits on, which without them really would have been bad.
Yeah.
That was just the start to a really good trip. I think that just set the tone, right? But then the next day, when we actually got on the road and we got to experience an area that I think otherwise I would maybe equate to like the ride from here to Vegas. We're going through the desert. It still has its own beauty, but it's a little bland in some ways, at least during full daylight. To our contrast was completely covered in snow, completely white out, no one around, and there's just this black, lonely road going down.
Well, and I don't think we realize we're at elevation. Just above us is one of the national parks in the state there, at even higher elevation where there's a lot of camping and stuff. And I don't think I realized that. I don't think I realized the weather was going to be that way. But I have to tell you, the morning shots when the sun was kind of bouncing, and then the evening as it started coming in, the colors on the snow, and like you were saying, the sparkle off of that it was magical.
Well, what really surprised me is how many people in the different places we stopped said you have to see this Highway 50 in the summertime, because there's so many things to do, and there's mine shafts, and it's a really interesting place to see. And that's between
Ely and Fallon.
Ely and Fallon, I think, is what we
Fallon.
did, but it goes all the way to Carson City.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But it was cool going through a lot of these small towns because it's so desolate. They're very separated from what we're used to on a day-to-day basis, and the people there reflected that. They were all nice. They were all friendly. They sat down next to us to tell us stories, small business owners. It was awesome.
Well, we had a really good lunch also. I remember having a big patty melt, and that really was great.
Well, I was just going to say, we're not scripting this stuff, so it's coming from the heart, and I don't remember the town that patty melt was had in, but what I do remember is our bikes were sitting outside, and a gentleman walked through the door and said, I know you guys, and out of a little town of 400 people or whatever it was, and we get this often, but he said, my brother follows you, I follow you, my friend, and so to sit there and have a conversation with both the owner of the restaurant and I believe it was her boyfriend, was very cool, and that happens when you're out traveling, and that's one of the things over the last 3.5 years that surprised me the most is when we're in little places and people walk up and say, I love your stuff, I follow you. It's heartwarming.
It's still a trip.
I'm just looking for that restaurant. Oh, I found it.
You found it.
Clementine Steakhouse.
Clementine.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, and then made our way back home, and the stories we had for that were how cold it was, but yet at the same time, how beautiful it was across there. And
well, it was mind-blowing for all of us to be out on Highway 50 in the middle of nowhere with no one around. I mean, it gets its name, and it has its name for a reason, because no one was around until you got in the towns. But maybe it's because we were in the frozen tundra. I'm sure more people are in their summer, but it's definitely a lonely highway. You're going to have stretches for miles of nothing.
Yeah, there were some pretty long stretches, and it was cool. We got a couple shots of us three just ripping down,
Right.
I think it was probably called the loneliest highway because there were not a lot of gas stops.
Right.
So you had, and Aaron Baker was talking about pedaling through there in the heat, and he couldn't understand how insane he was doing that. Insane comes up again, but I think there are more gas stops than you think nowadays. So get out there, go try this road. It's great. Maybe not do it when we did it in the middle of January, but go check it out.
I mean, we were there, and it lives up to its name.
Sure did.
So, hey, up next, one of another favorite ones that we had is spending a whole week in Paige, Arizona. That was pretty cool. It was a cold one. It was the dead of winter.
And raining.
Yeah. It was a big balloon festival, and we did things that happened automatically while meeting people, whether it was going in the gun range and shooting, whether it was getting on some ATVs and riding out through the desert, or getting down in the dam.
And this is why I said 2022, because we actually filmed it in November of 2022.
That's not why he said it. He's covering his butt now.
But we dropped it in January.
Yes. We met a ton of people. We interviewed restaurant owners.
Checked out.
Outdoor owners of outdoor shops. We met people that work in the dam. A very educational trip.
Well, and I hope maybe this year we get to do at least one or two of these, like maybe it's the Fletcher Street Cowboys or something, because I think when you go back and look at like the Route 66 or the Sturgis before the rally or this Paige series, to be able to spend time in that town or those towns and then tell the stories of the town, I mean, Paige was great. I mean, we didn't realize what we were getting ourselves into. And lo and behold, it was the first week in November or something like this, and it's their balloon festival.
Right.
Like, that's the first thing we rode up to. And
the timing on that.
We missed it this year.
Even though we're only in a small town for a little bit, we pull into this thing. We've got the Balloonfest going on. We walk down into town, and Tim is like, Galen, I've been wanting to find coins for you. And it's like old home week. Next thing you know, Tim and his wife and his mom, and we're hugging and having a good time. And we're checking out this, like Josh has got this scene of the balloons in the street blowing and this dog in one of them. I mean, it's really, really cool.
So that was Tim, the police chief, who gave him challenge coins. He was waiting to find us.
Yes.
Holding on to some challenge coins for a while to give them to us.
Yes.
And again, just another awesome
Well,
couple.
and then in the awesome couple. The next day they invite us out to the cliff dwellings, and before we get there, we stop at the bridge, and the California condor has been reintroduced to that area, and to see the hatchlings that were over on the cliff, and to see these massive birds, and most people will pass it because we pass it every time we go to Paige.
Yep.
But it's interesting that the California condors, they're getting a resurgence of life there, but it was in Arizona.
And while we were there, before we hit the road, we see these 2 bikes pull up, brand new road glides. And we walk up to the parking lot, and these dudes are like, yo, 2LaneLife. And this guy, I think Jay and his father or one of his friends, they were coming in from New York, and they were taking an EagleRider trip through one of the most iconic desert sections.
Wild West tour.
And they were watching our videos on the plane.
So
love that.
Just more great people we met.
Well, and the next day we're having dinner, or we did the interview at the family restaurant there, and they're like, you guys need to talk to these people. Lance walks out the door, comes back in. We've got the ATVs set up. We've got the UTVs set up. We've got the gun range set up. So it just turned into this route at sunrise, taking a UTV tour. And the people there were just so welcoming, and then that's not even the top. What was the topper?
I mean, we're down in the dam. We're down in the bowels of the dam, as far as you can go, walking on the lawn at the base of the dam, watching the floodgates open. I mean, we want to go back and check it out because the water went up 70 feet this year. See what that looks like. But hey, we did stuff that we didn't expect to do, but fate, as it happens.
And we got out on the water, not expecting to do so.
Yes.
Typically, there's no more boats docked by the end of October, and we're there in November.
Right.
Yeah. So we want to thank everyone that jumped in there as part of the documentary. So
Paige, Arizona. You know what? That's kind of the gateway to the North Rim as well. So
I think the next one we put on the list, the reason I put it on the list is because it was a first again. It was the first time we've gone to Sturgis, and it rained basically every single day.
And we weren't on our bikes for the first time.
No, we weren't.
We were on the Harley CVO, so that's a couple firsts there. But still, we had a great house. The group of people, which is our normal group, was always fun and fantastic on these trips.
Yep.
Food's always fun. People are fun. The rides are fun. We love Sturgis every year.
Good night in Williams for the first night. We've done that a couple years in a row. Always fun.
My favorite place.
Your favorite place. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, it was just, that's one of those iconic trips every year that we look forward to. It's a big group. The route sometimes changes, sometimes not, but you can't beat it.
We thought we could make it to Durango, which we did. Well, first we stayed in
Glenwood Springs.
Glenwood Springs. We stayed there because it took us a little while to get going, this, that, and the other thing. We stayed there. There's a gentleman that rides up following us. He's following our last year's trip.
Brad, I think.
Brad, and we have dinner with him. Then we head to Durango. And so we get into Durango, do our thingo in Durango. The next morning, the next morning, we're like, we need to make some miles. We're behind, right? And I'm not going to say there's another channel involved with us on this trip, but we went over to Durango Harley for a couple of hours to make sure data could be uploaded into. Because almighty drop is important.
Into the World Wide Web.
Yes.
Into the World Wide Web, because as farmers of content,
which is now what we're all called, farmers of
now
content.
have to plant the crops.
You do, and you have to tend to them.
You have to tend to them.
And sometimes in order to harvest them and get them to the people, you got to hold the whole group.
The people of the internet.
The people of the internet. You got to hold the whole group back for 4 or 5 hours.
So of all the trips we do, and we're doing a top 5 right here, every year, no matter where we've been, what we do, we look forward to going to Sturgis, really more than most trips. It's our one, let the hair down, have a good time, do bad things.
Bad things. It is, yeah, it's the, bad things. I think we're a little less focused on like productions, shall we say, in a way that we're just...
Well, we know you are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not us.
I don't want to bring the big camera around. I just want to have a little bit of whiskey and, you know.
But, I mean, it rained on us every day. We went up to Silverton after Durango. Yep. We got held up there because the hail was coming down. There was road closure for a little bit. I mean, we just were not making good time.
That's part of the journey.
It was okay, but you were about done with it after day 4. Like, I don't want to go out and ride in the rain anymore.
I think that was the very moment I fried my phone too, which ended up being another holdback a couple days later.
But we went through Wyoming, Colorado, and I gotta say, Ouray in Colorado, that was the first time we've been there. That town was awesome, and we're gonna have to go back because we didn't stay there. But we really got some cool stuff in Silverton, down in the basement and the bowels of the city that they used to use during the Prohibition time. So, again, fate happened. We learned some new stuff and have it that you're gonna watch or watching it now.
Well, and hopefully they did watch it.
Yes.
And so then we work our way into Deadwood, get the house, as you say, and it's still raining. Kind of rode around, did some things, went to the Boar's Nest, which we always have to do, right?
Always.
At least the first time in. Went out to the Sturgis sign. But again, it's those times where you're sitting in the house and you end up saying, forget everyone else, because the town was a little different. With all the rain, the campgrounds weren't really opened. Right? So the towns weren't quite as busy. And, so our 16A ride, the Mount Rushmore stuff, we took a couple people that had never been before. But it was a little slower process this year. But the times that are great, and the video reflects it. We're out barbecuing, people are helping, people are engaged in cooking. We've got content creators and farmers. We got chicken makers. We've got just people enjoying and having a great time. We went around the table and said, "What's the best memory of the trip?"
Yep.
Which was really cool. We were able to do some meet and greets. I have something left, but you guys, I don't know.
I just think it was another great trip, and this may be what you were thinking of as well. The final day, we got bamboozled into doing a 1,000-mile ride in one day from Deadwood, South Dakota to Las Vegas, Nevada. I think Juan and Lance were kind of planning it behind the curtains, and then halfway through the day, they're like, how far can we go?
The challenge was made, and we did it proudly, and we did it very strong.
But I'm going to say this. This is where I was going to go with it, but the Bamboozle, spot on. But that part of that Bamboozle was the worst rain we've ever ridden through in Wyoming.
Hail, too.
Dude, I forgot about
this
that.
Deep, you can't see. We're like, what are we doing? This is crazy. And we had 2 segments of that. We had rain, but not like the gnarly heavy. And luckily it only lasted 4 or 5 minutes, but that was bad.
Yeah. I just remember passing semis when the rain was just what I would consider like a 7 out of 10, just dangerously heavy. And passing semis on the right. Like, oh, why are you going slow? We're going 60 at least, whatever. And then it became 10 out of 10 unbearable with hail in between. And then we're in the right lane, hazards on or not, there was a chance semis didn't even see it. So I'm looking to my left. I had to flip my visor open, then my sunglasses, and semis are passing on the left, and we're seeing lightning, and we're in the middle of Wyoming, and there's no overpasses. No. It's not like we can hang out and avoid the lightning,
So be prepared wherever you go, because you never know what's going to happen, and you won't know unless you go. So
if you don't go, you won't know.
Right.
Okay.
So go.
Yeah, so go. Great trips, great journey. I mean, all the time we spend on the road, you learn. Nothing ever gets boring. It's always action, and this was some fun stuff right here.
Well, I just think we had such a mixture of rides this year, and adding the daughters, adding a different country with our wives, the rain, because we had rain all year long, hanging out with the Laidlaw crew, the loneliest highway, something we've never been on before. It was a year of firsts, and I enjoyed the year, even though we had all the weather that we had.
This is kind of fun and kind of good. Maybe if you guys enjoyed this, we might have to do some more of these.
Because we've got so much video content that we could share, whether it's a topic you guys are looking for, where to go, what to do, how to pack, what to bring, your favorite mountain towns, your favorite desert towns. I mean, this was fun. This was actually really cool to make.
So if you like this format, leave us a comment. Let us know that you do that, and maybe we'll do some of these mid-year reviews and year-end reviews more often. wishing you all a happy holidays. Hopefully you have a great one. You get everything you want from Mr. Claus.
Hey, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell your friends happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas.
And all that good stuff. And don't forget to check out 2LaneLife.com. We got V-twin parts and accessories. We got blogs with maps and routes and stays. We got riding jackets and socks and vests and motor parts and exhaust and suspension and all that stuff. And that's just a shameless plug. So we will...
join the family.
We'll take it.
Yes.
We'll take it.
With that, we'll see you
down the road. Is it on?
It's on. Let me double check it's on.
Imagine doing 20 minutes of nothing.